our first local talks of 2025, my friends. I have Dr. Michelle Morkert. She's going to be moderating a panel of 5 badass women who have great stories to be able to share. Having a diverse table of people when you're building something or when you're doing something good is so crucial.
I believe that leaders bring their lived experience to the table. So that's another part of leadership, right?
Yeah.
Is like you lift and lead. And I think that that's what we're going to learn from these women is how to do that better.
It's really important for us to be able to make sure that all voices are heard.
So it's like the combination of the individual and the collective. And it's just like a beautiful thing.
What's going on, friends? Jason here with the Love Local Chicagoland podcast, and I'm here on a midweek episode to talk about our first local talks of 2025, my friends. I don't know if you've heard us say this before, but we think we're stronger together as community members, and we think if we understand one another's stories and one another's perspectives, that we can make thriving communities, and we can leave this place better than we found it. This first local talks that we're bringing to this stage here at Bell Works Chicagoland, right in front of Love Local Media Agency and Love Local Studio, is to celebrate Women's History Month. My friends, I have Dr. Michelle Morkert, which I'm going to talk to you here in a moment, and introduce you to her. She's going to be moderating a panel of 5 badass women who have great stories to be able to share, to be able to help us understand that there's multiple perspectives in this world. And as humans, whether we're man or woman, we should look at those perspectives and we should seek to understand where others come from. Through that, we could make thriving communities. I'm excited for this first local talks, but let me introduce you to the moderator here, so Dr. Michelle Morkert. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Let's do this.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's been a long time in coming.
It definitely has. It's a time in history where we want to get good messages out there. We want to get stories out there, right? And we want to get messages out there and that aren't in like a combobulated way. Like, what is truth at the end of the day? Like with all this sort of stuff right now. Well, to me, like truth's talking to your neighbor. Truth's talking to somebody you've built a relationship with over time through curious, non-judgmental conversation. And this local talks means a lot to me. And the fact that the first one we're doing is for Women's History Month and that you're moderating it, it's like I don't want to say I kind of always felt that there could be some type of synergy here that's beautiful, but it's here, and I'm really excited for people to know like what came into this, how did we pick the panel, and we'll talk about those people at a later time. But first, I want people to know you. Who is Dr. Michelle Morkert?
Oh, you're asking me. I thought you were going to fill it all.
I'm moderating right now. You're not
okay.
moderating.
All right,
Sit
all
back.
So, of all the things, where would I begin? So people know me around here as Dr. Michelle. They think of me as a women's leadership coach, which I am. But if we back it up, I've been in academia for 17 years. But like those are all the things that are extraneous, like on my resume, you know. I think that I have always just paid really close attention to gender. Seems like a weird thing, right, to be paying attention to from a young age. But I'll tell you, I did because I was raised by a single mom in a community where there weren't a lot of single, like, mom families, right? And so I would look at our family, and I'd look at other families.
It's a different perspective.
Yeah, and I'd be like, So we're doing it a little bit differently. We've had to do it differently, right? And so I just developed this lens at a really early age. And so I just think I was meant to be going down this path. And so it's taken me through teaching, it's taken me through academia, it's taken me around the world, actually, right? Teaching women's and gender studies. And now I work with individuals and groups, and I speak in front of lots of groups. And so I'm just excited to be here with you doing this in this local community. Yeah,
it's. I think what you're bringing to the table is needed. You know, I think our society wants to use gender as a tool for division. I feel like in our society right now, and I have a firm belief that best ideas win out, and having a diverse table of people, a diverse group of people, when you're building something or when you're doing something good, is so crucial because of the different perspectives that come from that. And I don't know what it's like to, live as a woman and growing up as a mom or with a single mom, right? I have no clue what you've gone through, what you've done, but to be able to get to know you, to be able to get to know your story and what you've gone through, I think is important. I come from a place of like, I think God gives us all gifts. It's like, can we go to those gifts? Can we sit with those gifts and can we help do good with others? And I've seen you do that in so many different ways, and with your leadership coaching business, and also with what you do with C4C, with what you do with Ragus and Dara, which is Confidence for Connectors, right? You're really uplifting people, and you're uplifting people of all different genders. It doesn't matter, but you're helping bring light. And I feel to with times, in dark times. But so a question I think I have for you is like this event. First off, I didn't tell you I was going to ask this, but when I first asked you, like, what was your first response? Like, were you like, fuck this guy, or what were you thinking?
My response was like, yup.
Yeah.
I know, right? And that's the other thing that I often am talking about with people is like, it's a yes, it's like a hell yes, right? And it's maybe not. And I've been trying to go with like the yes, the gut yes. And so it was like, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was ready to go.
Yeah. It's, I want to be honest with you, like how this came into play, and I'll give Carrie credit here, but this local talks, I think at one time I had, and this is 2 years back, I thought I was going to be like the moderator or the host, and it was going to be kind of tied off of all this sort of stuff. And I knew that was changing. I felt that was changing. I think my place, even though I'm out front right now and you all think I'm crazy because I'm making so much content with our team, I truly feel like I'm the Dr. Dre from like a hip hop sort of view of like, we're the producers. We want to get good voices out there because we think stories matter. So when we talk about this event with you and you come into the table and I knew that this event had to be special, but I cannot take the credit for immediately thinking you were the right fit because I was still like in creation space. But when I was telling my wife, I'm like, oh, it's go time. It's Women's History Month. Let's go. And I didn't even get to say any words. She's like, Dr. Michelle Morkert, which she's a big fan of yours. She's gone to many things that you've done. She's like, she's the one that needs to be moderating that, not you. And I'm like, fuck yeah, you're 100% right. And I'm like, I actually think in all of these, at least for the panel series, we're going to have a panel series and we'll have a keynote series. But for the panel series, I want to bring in badass people that know their stuff. Next one we're going about mental health.
Yeah,
this
so
one,
important.
Yeah. So I want to bring in experts for that. And I'm excited for that. But come back to this one.
Yeah.
The panel that is put together for this. It's sick, guys. It really is. And it came from a place that I really enjoy building with you, Michelle, because we thought about things in a different way to be able to make sure we got the right people on that stage. So can you talk to me a little bit about like when we were looking for panelists, what were we looking for?
Yeah. So I believe that leaders bring their lived experience to the table. So it's not just like what you're learning, like your preparation, your academic preparation. It's also how you operate in the world. And that comes from your experiences, right? So we were looking for women, people who identify as women who have been leading in all different kinds of spaces, right? And so I was sort of looking at areas where we don't see a lot of women. So we would think of those as like male-dominated industries potentially. And whenever we see somebody who's a first or an only in a space, there's so much to learn because there's strategy behind that.
Why is that though?
Why is it that they're the only ones?
Why is it they're the only ones, but why is there so much to learn? Like, give me a little bit of backstory there.
So if you are breaking into a new space and there aren't a lot of people like you there, you not only have to learn the ropes of the industry, you have to learn the ropes of survival. You have to learn the ropes of how to lead, how to communicate. And nobody's really talking about that.
Because there's like politics in any business or any type of thing. Is there politics in it? Like, maybe not politics as we see it, but there's...
It's like the unwritten rules. It's the unwritten expectations. Like I was a first generation student. My parents didn't get BAs even. So how would I know how to get a degree? I walked into university and I'm like, yeah, I don't know about this, right? And these aren't things that people think they have to tell you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're like the unwritten. And so we really, if you're first in your space, which is a lot of people in this world, right? You just have to kind of like look around and you learn from watching. And in order to learn from watching, right, that makes you a certain kind of leader who's paying attention to other people, right? And you're kind of like human-centered in that way. So I can't wait to hear about like all the leaders on the panel, how they got where they are. One, why would you go into this industry when you didn't see a lot of people like you? How did you decide to do this, right? And what was it like? How did you get to the top, right? How did you get to this particular position? And what I know from a lot of people, a lot of women that I've talked with, is that there was always somebody who kind of inspired them. Maybe that person wasn't in their industry, but they saw somebody who would just like persist. They saw somebody who like took the hits and kept going. They saw somebody who supported somebody else. And then you know what they do? They become the shoulders for the next group of people. So that's another part of leadership, right? Is like you lift and lead. And I think that that's what we're going to learn from these women is how to do that better.
Yeah, I think stories matter. Our audience has heard me share that in many different facets from many different views. Because once we understand the story and we understand like, oh, somebody's going through that, or somebody had to face that, or somebody has to that challenge them when they go into a new place that they're, you know, they're minority, maybe not factually, but they're, you know, with however that looks, right? They're up against a brick wall. When you hear those stories, for one, the society wants to be like, oh, that's just this. You know, it's just the way that side does it, or that type of thing. But when we hear the stories. And we see how the things that people have to go through, and we see things that, especially in this case, women have to go through to be able to overcome and to be able to achieve the same things as men in this world, is different than my perspective as a white, blue-haired man, right? So to be able to bring those stories to the forefront is a big part of why we're building Local Talks, because I think those stories matter. People want to say that's divisive or whatever that is. No. This is just the human experience, and this is the experience that they have gone through, and now they're trying to bring it to the forefront so we can help, like, not only help this generation, but the next, right?
Yeah.
So, like, this panel that you put through, like, you're finding, the whole goal was finding like game changers in their industries. What do you think the people of the community could learn off of the people that are going to be up on the panel from your points of view, knowing some of them and the questions that are going to be asked?
That's good. So what they're going to learn, number one, is about the people themselves, right? They're going to learn, they're going to learn some things they just didn't know. I'm going to learn things I didn't know, right? I'm not in some of these industries where these people are. I have a lot to learn from them. It's also just like a different angle, right? The lived experience is just like so different than what we would see in textbooks someplace. And that's one of the things I love about Women's History Month. And I promise to get back to the panel, but I'm going to say a thing about Women's History Month first. I hear people often with these months be like, why are we doing this? This is a waste of time. This is silly. Why are we like lifting up somebody right now when we're excluding them, all the rest of the people? It's like your birthday. On your birthday, I don't feel excluded. I just don't. I want to celebrate you. And in fact, what I might want to do to celebrate you is ask you about your life.
I just wonder why people care. Like, who gives, if it doesn't impact you, like, why do you give a shit? That's what I wonder.
Well, that's the question I can't answer for you. I don't know. Keep asking that.
Like,
but it's like, how did you get here? Right? What was your journey? That's a part of this moment.
Yes.
That's a part of this moment right now. And so all we're doing with Women's History Month, not all, I'm going to take that back. What we're doing with Women's History Month is saying, look at the role that women have had in this country, that they have played. Because when we don't remember, it's almost like an erasure. And then we think we have to start over again. Or we think they never existed and it never happened when it did.
And there's been so many influential women that did their thing and helped shape communities, help shape nations.
Yes.
Help shape families, help shape, the list could go on and on, right?
Yeah, so we're just uplifting all of that so we can all learn. Because it's not like only people who identify as women are going to learn from Women's History Month. I mean, that's like part of the issue too, is that we don't think this information is for everybody. But it is.
Yeah.
Clearly. I mean, if I'm celebrating Black History Month, which I am, and I'm learning, then that makes me a better person. It makes me a smarter person, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to come at this. We definitely went off topic, and we'll talk back about the panelists. But for me, like, I look at myself as a man sitting here that I have learned a lot that I thought I knew that I didn't know about women because I did the research, because I look at my little daughter, I talk to my wife, and I learn from her. I talk to other people in the community. When you hear other people's perspectives from the human experience and you understand the bigger story that we're in, it's really important for us to be able to make sure that all voices are heard, and that has not been the case throughout history for women, right? Like it's been the opposite, and especially let's take it to another step. If you're a woman of color, that is even a harder journey than if you're sitting here as a white woman. And that's my friends. That's not an opinion. It's just a fact of what's been in our history books. And it's important for us to me, this is the first local talks we're doing, but it's important to amplify the voices of women that are doing good things, because what I have learned about women over the years with all this is they're really strong and they have a lot of amazing talents, just like men do.
Everybody does.
And everybody does. We all have our unique gifts. But having different perspectives at the table when you're building something or when you're on a team or whatever that case is, having a woman's perspective there is a game changer, especially when you're trying to disrupt, in my opinion, because they see things differently than us men. Yeah, and maybe that's what people don't like. I don't know. I can't decide. I can't describe to say what that side is. What I could tell you is for this local talks, it's coming together. It's bringing a person of your stature with your experience to pull out the stories of these women, of the things that they've gone through to get to where they're at. And I think the community needs to hear that, and not in a divisive way, in a loving way, because these stories are they're real. It's not something in your algorithm.
Right. And I always say gender is the most inclusive thing we can talk about, because it's everybody. Everybody's gendered. Everybody.
Yeah.
So we all share it. And I also want to say that when we get up on that stage on the 13th and we hear from women, we're going to hear that not every woman has the same lived experience and not every woman has the same story. So we don't even have monoliths, right? We can't say there's groups of people. So I'm excited to hear about diverse experiences within this panel of people who identify as women and as leaders in their fields. We all have a lot to learn. So it's the combination of the individual and the collective. And it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this today. It's going to be a great conversation, and I feel like it's going to be a kickoff to bringing influential voices to the table. My guess is this probably won't be your last one either as we continue to evolve. Our goal is to amplify voices of people doing good things in the community, and I think you're doing just that. And thank God Carrie is so much smarter than
She's
me.
so smart.
It wasn't,
I'm a big fan
I was
of hers.
in my eyes. I was like, fuck yeah, absolutely. And then it changed the whole vision of this isn't about me. Our goal, our role here with Love Local is we have the back end systems to do all this. We could bring the people to do the local talks. We could make content to tell these stories and to bring them to life. That's what we're here for. So it's bringing other people like yourself to the table, and letting them get an opportunity to bring stories out with their expertise. And through that, I hope we could shape a better tomorrow. But thanks for being first of 2025. Let's do this.
I'm excited.
Let's do it.
It's going to be good. And I'll say one last thing.
Please.
The first International Women's Day was organized around peace before World War I.
Yeah.
So that's still the vibe.
Peace.
That's how I'm coming at it.
Peace and curiosity and no judgment. right?
Well, we all have internal biases, but we work on it.
You're smarter than me, but that's true. But
That's
if we could remind ourselves that,
That's right.
If we could come back to like, oh, I'm judging right now. I do it all the time.
Just catch
Circle,
ourselves. It's
breathe,
human. That's all.
breathe through that, right? It's a human experience. Well,
Totally.
March 13th.
Yep.
6 to 8 p.m. My friends, we're going to do this. The first local talks of 2025. It's going to be a great panel. I promise. The people, the women that we're putting up there are going to bring stories to life that I think the community needs to hear. My friends, we're stronger together. And local talks, Love Local Media, Love Local Chicagoland, anything we do, Love Local, is just that. And has a huge play in what we do and who we are as a company. We believe in the voices of our community, and we believe that they are better when they come from diverse perspectives. You'll see that here on Local Talks as we continue to evolve. But for this one, I'm going to shut up. Just join us on March 13th from 6 to 8 p.m. There's going to be some networking up front, and we're going to go into the panel with a great conversation, and then we'll have some networking at the end. It's not just about the people that are going to be on stage and the moderator that'll be here, like we just talked about. The people that will be in this space will be great connections. My friends, we're building a community of people that want to make a better tomorrow. Hope to see you there. Peace.